watching.
Subscribe. Brought to you by Cineworld Cinemas, the best place to watch a movie.
Le Mans 66 is out in cinemas. You jumped when I started talking.
Yeah. I thought I was ready and I was not prepared.
Yeah,
No.
okay.
Yeah. I'm jumpy.
Le Mans 66, or Ford versus Ferrari for you Yanks, is out in cinemas very, very soon, and we are going to review it today on ScreenStalker. I'm Fakidor Laurie Blake. This is SoCalVal.
Vroom, vroom.
And this episode is sponsored by Cineworld Cinemas. And you can get your tickets to go see Le Mans 66 in the description down below by clicking the link that is hidden away down there. It is a UK viewers thing only because it's Le Mans 66.
Yeah.
And not Ford versus Ferrari.
Yes, I think Americans saw that and went, what's Le Mans? Le Mans.
Well, how many lemons are there?
There's a lot of 66
lemons?
to be in fact. Yeah.
My lord.
Yeah.
It was actually a very good film. So I'm not a big race car. I'm not a vroom vroom drivey man.
No.
But
That's a technical term.
That's a technical term. Despite my name being Laurie, so ironic, weird. But yeah, it's just I actually really enjoyed the film. I thought it was a lot of fun.
I did too. And before we saw this, I was telling you guys that I was dying to see it because I've been to Le Mans 4 times, going for the 5th time this year. My husband and his family are very into motorsport, and I feel very lucky to have been there, especially seeing the film and, not being a huge racing fan, but being around it, I thought, wow, I feel really honored that I got to see it in person, and will continue to see it in person.
Because it's a prestigious event in the racing world.
It is, and it's just one of those things that everyone that we know that is involved with racing or loves watching it on the telly, they are just so shocked that we actually get to go to Le Mans and see it, because that's sort of every racing fan's dream, is to go there and experience it and see the start and see all the hoopla.
So, and despite it being this prestigious racing event, this film, which is directed by James Mangold, manages to tell the story of what is actually a rather petty part of racing history.
Yeah.
So Ford, the story is, if you don't know, that Ford designed the GT40 to take part in Le Mans, the 24-hour of Le Mans race, because they were mad at Ferrari.
Yep.
They tried to buy Ferrari. Ferrari used the meeting that was set up to sort of broker the deal to get a better deal out of Fiat when they were bankrupt and a buyout. So the honor of Ford was damaged. Henry Ford II,
very offended,
a pretty proud man, decided that he was going to give unlimited resources to Carroll Shelby, who was a former race car driver and then went on to become a sports car designer.
Yes.
Basically unlimited resources to create this race car.
Yeah.
And he enlists the help of Ken Miles, who is played by Christian Bale.
Brilliantly played.
Who I think is the standout character in this film.
Agreed.
And he basically is a savant at designing cars and getting them to run properly, but he's also the most manic, crazy, gutsy driver going.
He's the Brian Pillman of racing. If you think about it. He's kind of just unhinged, like he's very erratic and he doesn't really work well with others. That's what I found interesting about the character, is that he's so, he's just not a guy that gets along with everybody. He's very, I don't know if you noticed, but when people would approach him in the movie, especially when men would kind of challenge him, he's very defensive and he kind of has his back up all the time. Like, well, who are you talking to? Very combative dude. Yeah.
And I think I think Christian Bale's performance and the character of Ken Miles and the characterization of Ken Miles carries this film.
Agreed,
I think the story has its interesting ins and outs and ups and downs, but despite being called Ford versus Ferrari in America, it is actually the story of genius designers versus bureaucracy. And that's really the
suits.
Yeah, the push me pull you here is the guys from Ford, the upper level middle manager marketing guys, of which there seemingly are endless ones. They're basically Agent Smith. There's so many guys in suits.
And they're just kind of, I'm going to go ahead and use a WWE term, they're just sort of guys that like you would meet at WWE that are just sort of yuppies in suits. Like that's kind of what we refer to them as sometimes, because it's just like they're a little smarmy, they're dressed really well, they just have this ego upon them, and it's like, wow, who are you, dude? And then Ken Miles is sort of your indie wrestler. He's gutsy and edgy, and I have to bring it back to wrestling, I do. But it's sort of them versus the suits. And I have to mention, I loved Josh Lucas in this film. He played, is it Leo Beebe, I believe it's called?
Yeah, Leo Beebe.
You hate him. He's so good at this character. He's just the epitome of a smarmy. Well, Mr. Ford says this, just an a-hole.
Yeah, so
Excuse my language.
If you were going to replace Ford versus Ferrari in the title, it would actually be Ken Miles versus BB, because BB just has this. He has it out for Ken Miles for the whole film, and he comes across as so petty and sniveling and snide.
Yeah, sniveling is a great word.
And I just. It's quite a simple story to really tell, but I think that Christian Bale's performance as Ken Miles is this kind of he's parts heartwarming, parts hot-headed, parts genius character.
He is
with this kind of. He almost comes across as deranged at points when he's like singing in the car. Like he clearly just loves racing, and from all accounts. That is pretty much what Ken Miles was like. The only thing that Christian Bale maybe doesn't nail down about the character is the accent.
That was a little off.
So Ken Miles was Brummie, right? He's from Birmingham, and Christian Bale's accent brings in a few bits of Cockney.
Did you hear Australian in it? Because
I
mean, I live in England now, and I'm kind of understanding how the different accent sounds. But even I was like, he is British, right? Like, and I don't know if he was trying to do something edgy with the accent, but it was a little confusing.
It's like it was like times. A Tom Hardy accent in that it's sort of all accents at all times.
Yeah,
it's amorphous.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think Ken Miles is obviously the biggest character in the film, and he is very layered. Like there's sometimes when you're seeing him as this family man, and he's very relatable and a nice guy, and then other times like you just think this guy's a jerk. Like he's just he's flipping out all the time, and he's erratic, and you kind of go, well, this is sort of why Ford had an issue with putting him as the main driver, because you never know what he's going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian Pillman vibes, I'm telling you.
And he's just got that level of focus. Yeah. In the racing side of things,
but nowhere else,
and nowhere, almost nowhere else. Like almost to sort of to distraction. He's that focused, but that should lead you down the path of thinking, well, this is a film about these races, and those are, apart from the performance of Christian Bale, the standout moments, right? Yeah. Like the full the Indy 500 that he takes part in, which is a brilliant scene. There's the sort of dirt track raceway from the beginning of it, and then there's the whole, obviously, Le Mans race itself. Those moments are when this film starts to purr. Like
I agree.
The engine of this film starts to rev up and starts to hum, and you're like, okay, I'm getting this now.
Yeah, and even you were saying, and I was saying before the film, that if you're not a racing person, what are they going to give you if you don't understand all of the racing terms, and if you're not really thrilled by these race scenes, which are amazing. But there's so many, and I don't want to give too much away, but there's so many different turns. That's a car pun. In the film, turns, hairpin turns that really grip you, and the characters being so strong with Matt Damon's character as well. He's phenomenal in it, and with Ken Miles, it's gripping, if you will.
Yeah, I think, and that's when I don't know, like it's just the rest of it feels quite surface level. I was kind of hoping that the rest of the film and the interplay and the drama and even just the Ferrari aspect would have played in more, because I thought it was quite fun. It's quite funny that they play the scene where it's John Bernthal's character Ioka goes to Ferrari in Medina, and he as the suited representative of Ford, and he's like, just going to go to this like little artisanal car manufacturer, and it's like Ferrari's hand making cars in a beautiful villa in Italy, and like Ford's turning up like, well, us plucky Americans are going to ruin you guys. And it's like they're basically like a sourdough bakery basically being quashed by Hovis. It kind of plays a bit weird in that sense, because it's quite a straight scene where you're like, well, the tricksy Italians are doing this. Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of that sort of, we go through the history at quite a surface level rather than diving into the sort of deeper. You could have, like, if that's the point, and the point is that Ferrari's the bad guy, which kind of the title suggests, this scene suggests to some degree. It's weird that we don't see Ferrari building their car or being in their races. Yeah. I would have liked a bit more of that. And similarly, I would have liked a bit more of a dive into Ken Miles specifically, because
why he is the way he is.
While we see him as this, obviously, amazing, talented mechanic and driver, we don't really get a sense of why he's so focused on that part. Like there's the hint that obviously like he was a tank commander in the war. He was, from a quick Wikipedia search last night, I found out that he raced motorbikes before he joined the war effort. Then he came back, moved to America, started racing cars there, and that's kind of where it all spat out from. But is the the desire to go fast, something to do with the adrenaline hit of being a soldier.
Yeah,
You know what I
they
mean?
didn't hit on that as much as I wish they would have.
And I kind of wish that had been dived into, because I think Christian Bale is so electric as the character here, that you're so intrigued by him, and we only ever really sort of rotate around his world, and we never really dive too deep into it.
That's so true, because you want to know why he is the way he is. Why is he so ornery? Why is he so defensive and combative with people? And what is this? Where did this desire come from? Yeah, I think he plays the character beautifully, but it would have been nice to see that. And I agree with you about the Ferrari thing, because actually, as an American, Ford versus Ferrari is very easy to understand, and I think it sounds great. It looks cool, but it really is more about Le Mans '66, and it's only, obviously it's not just about Le Mans either. It's really about Miles and Shelby. I mean, that sounds like an adorable puppy film, if you call it that. Miles and Shelby.
The ultimate buddy cop.
Yeah, buddy cop movie. But no, it is more about their relationship, and like you said, them versus the suits. But yeah, Ferrari sort of makes an appearance in the beginning, and then it's like, they touch on it a little bit, but it's really not about their, anger at Ferrari. It's really just about the race and how Ken is perceived by the suits and things like that. Yeah.
And I think it's the interesting thing to be like the actual rivalry of Ferrari, even in the race in real life.
Yeah,
obviously, like
that was
Ferrari
cool.
overclocked, like over revved, and their engine overheated. So they were, or their gearbox went, or whatever it was, and they were out of the race way before the race was even done. So like Ford will win. Like it was Ford that shot themselves in the foot towards the end of the race with the whole, choosing to cross the finish line.
And that was, that to me, that's what I thought to myself is, okay, so now we're at Le Mans, and it's probably, the biggest part of the film, and it's exciting and all of that. But I thought, okay, now they're at Le Mans, and they're going to win. I mean, it's one of those movies that you assume they're going to win. How are they going to make it interesting? How are they going to keep us going in terms of the storyline? So that whole, I'm not even sure if that was real or not, but that whole photo finish, is it? That, again, a weird turn that it took. I thought, wow, you have this exciting moment, and then it's sort of robbed away from you. So it was really interesting how they did it. That was brilliant.
So there's a slight rewriting of history, I think, in the terms of the story of the film here, that they do all. So it's a very famous. It was a photo finish moment that they were going for Ford to sort of push it, as obviously it was already historical in the fact that Ford had never won Le Mans, and they were winning anyway. But to have 3 Ford cars go over the finish line first, second, third, that was kind of the big photo moment.
It is cool,
and it is cool. But apparently, so in the film, they're talking about the distance where people had to run to the car, and that's why McLaren's car wins rather than Shelby's car, and Ken Miles driving, obviously. In real life, apparently they said it was that McLaren sped up at the end to go over the finish line first.
That's even more controversial.
Filthy.
But because he wasn't a character that anyone cared
but you
about.
didn't want to do Ford versus Ferrari versus McLaren.
Yeah, that's just too long.
Versus Shelby. There's too many car names.
Yeah, it just sounds like an indie band after that. But yeah, but they had to get that last Leo Beebe thing in there to kind of screw over Ken Miles. And man, that was infuriating. But they made it, like I said, I thought, okay, they're going to win the race, and that's the end, and it's going to be lovely. And then when that happens, you think, wow, the scene where, we're doing spoilers, the scene where Ken Miles is out of the car and everyone's passing him with flowers, and he's like, where's everybody going? That was heart-wrenching. That really bothered me. And again, it's interesting that a guy that throughout the whole movie I was kind of thinking, this guy's a jerk. Like, he's flipping out, and he's just, really just mean. That made me go, wow, he's got a heart, and bless his, he did his best. Wasn't good enough.
Bless his little cotton socks. He did his best. And I do think it's one of those really interesting characterizations at the end again, where he is passed over for winning Le Mans and like getting the Triple Crown as well, because he won the Indy 500 and I can't remember what the other race is. Yeah, I think it's Monaco now, but I don't think it was Monaco at that time. So he wins both those races in the same year anyway. Yeah. And he's passed over the Triple Crown, and he's still just like, well, you promised me the drive.
That was lovely.
And that is a character moment that I think would be amazing had we dived just that little smidge deeper into who he was. I agree.
And it's kind of like he does turn a new leaf, and it's like, wow, he's grown up, because he flips out about the silliest thing. So if he can take this in stride and go, well, I was honored to do the drive. That's lovely. He's growing as a person. And as he grows as a person, then the next scene, I couldn't believe it. I wish there was a camera on my face. And I said to you at the end of the film, I made the joke about, wow, that took a weird turn. Dear Lord in heaven. Yeah. That was awful. Well, do we have to tell them what happened?
No, I think
I don't want to.
Have a little Wikipedia about Ken Miles and work out what happened to him. It's true to form. And I think this is the thing. This is not your intellectualized biopic.
Right.
This is a blockbuster biopic that is, I think,
It is a
it feels like a passion project from everyone involved. So it was written by the Butterworth brothers, Jez Butterworth, John Henry Butterworth, and Jason Keller, and directed by James Mangold. And it feels like this was a sort of slavish recreation of these races. That's what they wanted.
They wanted
to do.
it. Yeah.
And then I feel like the rest of the film, it's not padding. It's definitely not padding, and it's actually very enjoyable. I think as kind of two-dimensional as a lot of the characters are. It's really fun to watch them interact. There's an amazing scene where Carroll Shelby gets his revenge on the Ford executives when they come to try to stop Ken Miles from being involved in Le Mans again, because he gets passed over for the 65 race.
Yeah, and he's trying to do everything right.
And he tries to do everything right. He tries to be good. And the executives just say, we don't want him driving because he's a live wire. We don't know what he's going to do in front of the press, in front of the cameras. He won't say what we want him to say.
He's not the brand, basically.
Yeah, so 66, they kind of position themselves in a position to get him sent over to France to do the race because he's going to win. And then even then, BB's coming for him. And then there's this brilliant scene in the hangar on the raceway, which is, I think, an airport testing ground.
Yeah.
They lock him in the office.
Brilliant, yeah.
And they take Henry Ford II out in the GT40 that they're working on and remodeling. And Carroll Shelby just gives him the sort of top level, here's the fastest drive you've probably ever experienced.
So here's what your $9 million is buying you.
Slayed in the cinema.
Hilarious.
It was such a funny scene, watching him. And everyone's going so to the uninitiated, they sometimes just soil themselves.
Yeah, and he's such a stoic character, and he's so mean, and this is just great to see him completely crumble like that.
And he breaks down. He has this amazing breakdown.
Yeah,
it's
it lasts for a while. Everyone's cracking up.
It's
at the
really,
theater.
really funny, and they managed to turn it into something quite meaningful and poignant. And I think it is a funny film. I think Ken Miles is such a character. Yeah, and such a
he's sassy.
He's a good old card, and he just does manage to carry an entire film. I think Christian Bale did an amazing job here.
Brilliant.
And I think with stuff that potentially wasn't as good as it could have been. I think you could have dived deeper into all of these characters, all of their motivations, everything they were doing. And maybe given it a few more working parts.
Right. It's interesting because to make a film like this, I totally agree. It's a great word they use, the passion that goes into it, because you can tell everyone was just, at the top of their game. But it's got to be interesting for, James Mangold or someone to direct it, or the writers, because you have to keep all of the racing fans super, super happy. Because it's like if you made a film about wrestling, they're the smart marks, I don't know what they call them in racing, that they're going to be looking at all these meticulous points and how, and
skid marks.
Yeah, that too. Should we call them that?
The skid marks.
I don't know if they'd enjoy that. But, they're looking at, okay, well, he wouldn't have said that, or this, he didn't do these nuances that he did, and all these different things and the technicalities. And yeah, it's got to be really tough. But me, as someone who's sort of in the middle, I'm around racing quite a bit. I like it, but I'm not a huge technical fan. I found it great. I loved the storylines, with his son. That was very touching that they made sure that he was seen as a family man, as a girl. That's cute. There was lovely scenes with him and his wife. Didn't love the wife that much. I told you that earlier. I don't know what it was about her. Maybe we didn't get to know her as well. She rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. I'm surprised because she really was the only female in the film. It's like you said, it's a boys' club.
So it's Catriona Balfe playing Molly.
No offense, lady. I don't know what it was. She just it fell a little flat for me.
She was a little too doting a little too often, and then she had this blow up breakdown moment.
And it's like, what is she on?
It feels a little bit undeserved.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish there was a bit more friction between her and
right, because they're so
Miles.
sweet. Every other scene, all of a sudden she flips out, and it's like, whoa, lady.
But she's got a lot. She brings a lot of personality to the role. I think.
She does.
There's the bit where they're fighting on the lawn, and she sits down and watches, and I thought that was quite nice characterization.
Yeah.
I would again just have liked to see a bit more of the drama, the interpersonal drama.
Yeah.
But I understand completely that in a film in which your big moments and the scenes that people are going to be watching on YouTube when they get ripped off or whatever it is, or like all the things people will be talking about are how well the races were recreated, and that was
phenomenal.
amazing. So really, the talking scenes, they're a shift down, aren't they? Yeah. To put it in car terms.
You put it in a car term
again. We've dropped
again.
down into fourth, and then we're going to go up to fifth again.
We have automatics in America.
When we
I
get
don't know
into
what is this?
We've gone into P. Then we've gone into park for a second, and then we're going back into D.
Now I understand.
Yeah. So I think that if you are a car fan, Le Mans 66 or Ford versus Ferrari, if you happen to be in America,
See them both.
is definitely is definitely the film for you. For anyone else, it is a really enjoyable ride at the cinema.
It's a great ride at the cinema. Another car pun.
Yeah, another car pun. I'm just going to keep putting them in there. So put the pedal to the metal. Get down into the link below. Click it to get your tickets to see it at Cineworld Cinemas. That is all the time we have for talking about Le Mans 66. Thank you for watching. I'm Fakidor Laurie Blake. This is SoCalVal. And remember, ScreenStalkers, we're watching.
Drive safe.